the program is quite intense, but obviously the purpose of being here is to foster interactions and collaboration. So basically what we would like is that the coffee breaks, lunches, and dinners are even more important than the presentations. So the presentations are something where we learn what we do each other. And the purpose of this short introduction that we give now is just to give an overview of the ICGEB as an institution. And basically everything started as an idea in the late 70s with the recombinant DNA technologies. You remember the days when Paul Baer, Stanley Cohen, and several others in California started to develop techniques that could allow the use of restriction enzyme to cut DNA, to do cut and paste of DNA from one organism to the other organism, and with the idea of exploiting the universality of the genetic code to produce recombinant products. So these were the years that culminated in 1982 with the production of insulin, then followed rapidly by a large number of recombinant products. And then more or less in the same period, so in the mid-70s, Cecil Milstein in the United Kingdom started to develop a technique that allowed the production of monoclonal antibodies. The technique has had a tremendous impact for the generation of biopharmaceuticals, and these now constitute the basis of what's modern therapy. If you look at the statistics of medicines that are most profitable in the world, this is a statistic from this survey agency, Vanta GP. In 2013, these are the 10 most sold drugs. Each one have sales of more than $10 billion per year. Well, if you look at the top 10 drugs, 7 are products of biotechnology. So there are 5 monoclonal antibodies and 3 recombinant proteins made through genetic engineering. One of these recombinant proteins modified the insulin, and the top one is Humira, a monoclonal antibody against TNF-alpha used in several rheumatic disorders. And so there has been this tremendous impact of biotechnology, as we all know, for human health in terms of drugs, but also vaccine, diagnostic kits. And then biotechnology moved to agriculture very rapidly to enhance productivity and improve the nutritional composition of foods, and more recently to environment, for sanitation and bioremediation, and even in the last decade or so, also as for the production of biofuels. So there's been this tremendous impact of biotechnologies, and already in the late 70s and in the early 80s, the fear among the international community was that the huge impact of these biotechnologies, also in economical terms, that was occurring, especially in the United States, could not bring benefit to the vast majority of the world. And so the fear was that basically these biotechnologies somehow could increase the divide between the developed and the underdeveloped world. And also in economical terms, so most of the biotechnological revolution at the beginning was starting from the academics, but rapidly moved into industries, with very, very successful industries, some of which are really giants even now. And so in the early 80s, some functionaries of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in Vienna conceived the idea of developing a center that could do exactly the same things, but would be open to the rest of the world, and in particular to developing countries. And that was a very inspired idea. There had been a meeting in 1982 organized by UNIDA in Belgrade, that at that time was Yugoslavia, and this meeting basically was based on the concept that the solution that improved the quality of life should not be restricted to richer countries, but also could be developed by the countries that were developing. In 1983, there were a foundation meeting in Madrid in Spain, and the statutes were signed in 1984. In 1987, the ICGEB was founded and started its operations in Trieste and in New Delhi, India. The statute foresees that the center had its main headquarters here in Italy, but a component that with the years became even larger than this component of laboratories also in New Delhi in India. And the project remained a UNIDO special project until 1995, and then ICGEB became an independent international intergovernmental organization in 1995. One could ask why Trieste? And we had this discussion also yesterday for dinner. In terms of Europe, Trieste is very central in the for its geographical location. And it's one of those relatively small cities, a bit more than 200,000 inhabitants, but those cities which are rich of scientists. This is an editorial in Time a few years ago that takes small cities in all over Europe, cities that have this richness in science, and the reason basically was mostly geographical. After the Second World War, Trieste lost completely all its territory which passed to Yugoslavia and are now vast part of Slovenia and Croatia, so it lost all the territories around, and as a sort of political compensation, the government of Italy invested a lot of money in this city to transform this city into a scientific city. The ICGEB is now composed by 3 components, so the original one in Trieste and New Delhi, India, plus 7 years ago, through a specific agreement with the government of South Africa, we started our operations in South Africa as well. And we are currently supported by 64 member states, which are the states that are depicted in green in this picture. So basically they include the whole South America and Central America, 1/3 of Africa, and the major countries in Asia. Saudi Arabia is obviously one of these member states, and we collaborate with about 40 affiliated centers all around the world in our member states, and these are national laboratories that have this specific status of interacting partners for us. Basically, we do 5 types of things. One is carry out advanced research in the laboratories here in Trieste, in Delhi, in Cape Town. So we want that our research is cutting edge. So what we ask our group leaders is that they do competitive research. Competitive is not a good term, but research that is comparable to the best university and research centers worldwide. And at the same time, however, we provide fellowships for PhD students and postdocs to join our activities in Delhi, Trieste, and Cape Town. Trieste has about has 18 research groups now, and about 200 people working here, but these come from more than 25 different nationalities. So I think we are a sort of unique international intergovernmental institution who does practical research with its young researchers. And then in terms of providing advanced education to worldwide in our specific domain of interest of biotechnology, we organize meeting, courses, and workshops, both here, Delhi, Cape Town, and worldwide. And we provide research grants from scientists in the member countries, including an early career return grant by which young scientists who have been abroad for a certain number of years and wants to come back to each country to start his own research activity. Well, we support him economically for 2-3 years as a startup. The idea is the general idea is to contribute to international development by providing education in the specific field of biotechnology. And then obviously as I also mentioned before, biotechnology is an application of science also, and there cannot be application without economical exploitation. So we do a lot of activity of technology transfer to industry in the domain of biotechnology. You will hear more about all this activity afterwards. Just to give you an idea, from 1998 we have provided approximately 900 fellowships to young scientists, which correspond to more than 1,500 years of salary funded by us. And this fellowship program is named under the name of Arturo Falaschi, who was being the founding father of the institution, and he was a very brilliant Italian scientist, a scientific manager who passed away in 2010. And as a way to remember his mentorship, basically we dedicated to him these programs. And you see that the spread of nationalities to which we give these fellowships is really very, very large. There is a call out now with a first deadline in March 2015 for the international PhD program, and two deadlines, 13 March and 30th of September 2015 for postdoctoral fellowships. And the idea, and this is distributed worldwide through our channels, and is published in Nature, and so we expect to have a large number of applications. Consider that we usually give in total about 15 PhD fellowships every year, but we receive more than 1,500 applications for these. So there is really a need for education in science. These research grants that we do give to our member countries, we have provided 450 grants corresponding to approximately 19 million euros. And again, we receive a large number of applications, and we try to distribute this money with the prime principle of quality of science and excellence of science, and a second criterion on geographic distribution. Again, there is a call now for to ask for these research grants with a deadline of 30th of April. And this category is very interesting, which I mentioned before, the early career return grants for young researchers who want to go back home. We organize more than 20 meetings, courses, and workshops every year. This is not meant to be read, obviously, but it's just to give you a flavor of these meetings. This is a big flyer of our meeting 2015 and the meeting that we held last year. Each line is one of these meetings that you see that, I mean, the number is really high, and these are organized in the three components, also in our member states. So we receive applications every year from institutions who want to organize a meeting, and we co-sponsor this meeting or sponsor totally these meetings. We have held more than 480 scientific events with more than 20,000 participants in these meetings with fair distributions among the different continents. Again, there is a call ending in this period of the year to ask for these meetings. This year we have introduced some changes, because in addition to meeting, workshop, and courses, we have introduced a fourth category of meetings, because we think that it is very important that science is also discussed at the lay public level. So there must be a social understanding and appreciation of science. So we encourage the organization of meetings in a series that we call the Future of Science, in which we want scientific events on hot scientific topics, but with open communication to media and to the general public. Our governing body is the board of representatives of the countries. We call it the board of governors. They meet every year to decide the general lines along which the center should develop. It's a real an international environment, and our scientific activities are governed by a council of scientific advisors composed by 15 eminent scientists that we try to keep at its highest level. We always have 1 or 2 Nobel laureates in these councils. Here in Trieste, currently we have 19 research groups. So this number includes also an outstation in Rome and another outstation in Buenos Aires, which is directly controlled from Trieste. And you will hear most of the group leaders speaking and presenting their own research activity later during this short workshop. And most of the people here are young people who have less than 35 years of age. They have a PhD and or a university degree, and with a fair representation of males and females. And so we try to think at ourselves as a community of young and educated people who do real top research in the laboratory. There are some pictures, and we can have a physical look at the laboratories afterwards if you want to have a visit. For our research activity, we apply to international grants. All the PIs are highly committed to provide external sources of funding for their research, which is not always easy. And we have collected more than 20 million grants from 2003 to now. You see, basically, we manage an average of 30-35 grants per year here in Trieste, corresponding to about 2.45 million euros just for consumables. The funding sources are the most variegate, ranging from the European community to foundations like the Wellcome Trust in the UK, Cancer Research UK, Leukemia Lymphoma Society from the United States, the Diabetics the program in the United States, the NIH, and several contributions here from foundations in Italy. Then, in terms of funding, we have 2 activities that are very interesting. They generate funding, and they generate also important institutional activity for the center. One is the transfer of technology that are developed in the ICGEB laboratory to the external industrial partners. One is very active, and you will hear later by Marco Barale a description for the production of generic biopharmaceuticals, so all the recombinant medicine that for which the patent have expired can be produced by genericals, and we teach our industrial partner to do this kind of activity. And the second, which is mostly in New Delhi, India, and we will hear also tomorrow by me a short presentation of what we do in India, is more centered on the generation of diagnostic kits for dengue, for hepatitis, and with a touch also on biotechnological agriculture. And the second is a program on the safe use of genetically modified organisms, which is a huge problem in terms of interaction with the society. There's also a huge problem of interaction with the political world and the legislation of GMOs, or the impact then on the outcome of biotechnologies in the practical life. And so basically we have received an important support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to teach the regulators and policymakers in Africa, and Mr. Impandelli will explain this better. We are a sort of an academic institution, so our research interests are very variegate. You can have a look at this list. I won't touch anything about this because you will hear the presentation of most of the important topics. We try to organize the laboratories both here in Delhi with common core facilities that can be assessed by all these scientific groups. This is a list of facilities, and we do infection research in a containment laboratory. We have an advanced optical microscopy facility that is very interesting and ranges from sophisticated optical nanotechnologies like FREP and FRAP to live imaging. We have a facility for the production of viral vectors. You will hear later more on this, and you will also hear more on a facility for high throughput screening for drugs or genetic material. Obviously, our capacity of producing science is strongly linked to our capacity of publishing papers, and we have an average of 85 papers per year. You see, with the trend and increase. Last year we published here only from Trieste more than 100 papers with good impact factor, and from 2010 to 2015 we published papers from here in Nature, Nature Medicine, Nature Review Council, where you can read that these include the most appealing scientific journals. Obviously, we realize that, as I said before, more than one time, that we need to not only to provide technological solutions, but also to foster technological solutions for international development by our young members. This is also part of the new goals for sustainable development, which are going to be issued just this week in New York by the United Nations. And so basically the idea is also to promote innovation, and promoting innovation means also protecting innovation. And so we started to be active in our intellectual property protection program, and from 2015 to 2013 we have patented all these patents. And just to say that we are really, we want to do basic research and promote progress in knowledge, but we understand that we need to do also projects and programs that should have a practical impact. You'll hear about this later. We have a program for a PhD program, which is run in collaboration with top international academic institutions, and in particular two. One is the Open University UK. We are one of the academic institutions who can run courses under the UK system of PhD, and the other one is one leading PhD school here in Trieste, which is called the International School for Advanced Studies. We give a lot of attention to publicizing our activities. And so basically what we do for all our seminars and our meetings is to provide the recordings in which you can see the presentation and slides at high resolution. You see the person speaking. We started this program in 2011, and we were accepted immediately in the iTunes platform from Apple. And so now if you go to, if you touch your iPhone, your iPad, you go to iTunes, the same iTunes signs where you download your movies or your music, and you type ICGEB, you will be brought to the iTunes U part, U University, and there you will find hundreds of presentations produced by the ICGEB, which can be downloaded for free from all over the world. Consider that from September 2011 to May 2014, we had almost 350,000 downloads or browsed presentations, and we have also statistics from where people download this presentation, and really there are scientists downloading very specific scientific presentations from Trinidad and Tobago, the Virgin Islands, on the remote countries and cities in Africa. And this is just to say that how science is totally international. Over the last 5 years, we put a lot of emphasis also in outreach programs. We have a website that's currently continuously updated, I would say daily. This site has an average of 4 million hits per month. So there are 4 million hits, so people assessing the site every month. And there we report all our activities here in Trieste. And as I said, the update of this is almost daily for Trieste. Just the other two components is just visits of eminent people to Delhi or the Australian Prime Minister to Cape Town. And we are also active for the lay public. We run a program here at Trieste that we would like also to expand to other countries that we call Science and the City, to mimic Sex and the City. And the idea is we rent a room downtown in Trieste. And we invite two eminent speakers in one specific field. These are two very famous geneticists. He is the director of Genetone in Paris, and he's a famous Italian geneticist, plus with a professional journalist. He's the director of the local newspaper here, who interviews these persons in front of the lay public, with the lay public of the possibility of asking questions. Then we tape and record all this and distribute this on DVDs or on the Apple iTunes as a way to spread scientific information. And the topics are the topics that interest the public, so genetically modified organisms, or the new therapies against tumors, stem cells, modifying the human genomes, and so on. We are very active on social, we are on Facebook, we do lessons and teachings for students. This is the former Director General, Professor Barale, who is teaching a class of high school students. We have programs of teaching biotechnology and simple experiments to kids. This is one of our PhD students who is teaching biology to small kids, and on the occasion of a fair. And this is another of our scientists who's teaching a young kid to load gel electrophoresis. And obviously, we understand that if you want to approach society, we also need to take care of the ethical problems in society. And there are obviously in our domain a number of problems that affect society. And we participate in the United Nations Interagency Committee on Bioethics, and basically we are very active in this committee, and we will host here in a couple of weeks the next meeting here in Trieste. Okay, I think that this is more or less all what I wanted to tell you. I will tell you later something more about New Delhi and Cape Town, and but I think that you can have a quick glimpse at what ICGEB is and what is its purpose. I mean, we are not an enormous organization like UNESCO or the FAO, but we are proud of ourselves of being smaller, but being very, very active, and being active at the bench and in the activities, and being active also very, very quickly, and having the possibility of reacting also very quickly to new challenges or new opportunities. It is in this framework that I really welcome your presence here, and thank you very much for being here. And I'm happy to take questions if you have any.